On Tuesday, voters across Chicago will get to choose some members of the city's school board for the first time. The new model increases the size of the board from 7 to 21 members. Now, next week, 10 of those members will be elected to two-year terms. The rest, including the president, will be appointed by Mayor Brandon Johnson. Then, in November of 2026, the entire board, all 21 seats, will be elected. Illinois law divides Chicago into 10 districts, with each containing 2 sub-districts. The board president elected citywide. Interest in the contest has grown since Mayor Johnson replaced his entire board amidst a clash of the future of schools chief Pedro Martinez. Becky Beebe is the Chalkbeat Chicago bureau chief. She joins us this morning to talk more about what to expect from Tuesday's contest. Becky, thanks for being with me. I appreciate your time.
Thanks so much for having me.
So we now have the end of mayoral control within our sights in terms of the school board. And in the past, that control meant a lot when it came to roads, the roads for funding, for teacher evaluations, for what schools might be closed. What kind of changes will these elections now introduce into this larger system, do you think?
That's a great question. And I think the argument many activists who pushed for an elected school board made was that instead of this being up to a single person, the mayor and his administration, this would be a broader decision-making body with a variety of viewpoints from different communities. So as you mentioned, there are going to be 10 districts. Those are geographic, and people will represent different parts of Chicago as they sit on this elected school board. And so we'll see, I would think more variety in the meetings and the debate around the future of the school system. And with that also could come a lot of disagreement. I've explained this to people as sort of a mini city council. Instead of 50 wards, you've got, 20 school board districts and a new governing body.
So, and of course, this election comes at a time when there's a lot of heightened attention to what's going on the board and the mayor's desire to have Pedro Martinez step down and all of that. Do you have a sense of whether the controversies that have been surrounding the board, is that going to play out through this process?
Yeah, I think it will continue to play out through this process. Pedro Martinez's contract will eventually end, or this new 21-member board could decide to take a vote to end it early. That's something, we've gathered that the mayor has asked his current 7-member appointed board to consider. It hasn't happened yet. And we've heard from candidates many of whom say, I actually support leaving him in place because stability is important. And they think he's done a good job. A few who, disagree with that. And I should note that that is one of the key responsibilities of a school board in any district. It's hiring and firing the leadership.
We've also been seeing a lot of money go into these races at last count, about $4.8 million. A lot of it coming from CTU, but there are some more conservative, wealthy donors who are entering the race. Some candidates seem to be weary of tying themselves to that. How's the money factoring in here?
So the money is really interesting. You do have groups like the Illinois Network of Charter Schools, which has a PAC that gives directly to candidates. It also has an independent expenditure committee, which is also known as a super PAC to many folks. This is something that they cannot coordinate with candidates for where they spend that super PAC money. There's another super PAC, a couple other super PACs that have entered the fray, and they are running ads and mailers for candidates they support. Those candidates didn't always, in all cases, ask for that support, but because they are, candidates who have said that they support school choice, things like charter schools existing, or magnet schools being an existing thing in our system, they've gotten the backing of some of those super PACs that are pro-school choice and acting as an opposing force to the Chicago Teachers Union, which has spent quite a bit of money as well with boots on the ground and other resources.
So not everybody has kids in the school system, and that's fine, but all voters will have a say in the election. So I'm sort of curious, just for those who maybe don't pay as close attention, given that people are so hyper-local in what concerns them, what are the critical issues that people should be paying attention to in their vote?
So I would say school choice is certainly one that a lot of people, even if you don't have kids in the system, it has a lot to do with how the system operates, and it is connected to how the school system is funded and how schools are funded, which I think any voter who is a taxpayer in this city, that is one of the top issues that I've heard from folks and that candidates have told me people care about when they knock doors, which is how are you going to balance the budget? How are you going to either make sure schools have enough funding, make sure that the money's being spent, correctly and efficiently, and that their money is being spent in a way that then also produces good outcomes, schools that are producing students who, have high skills, math and reading skills. I think people have a lot of concerns about performance in some areas. But I think, if you're not a person with a child in the school system, budget is a big issue. I would also say school facilities is something that some candidates have run platforms on, the infrastructure, because even if maybe you don't send your kids to the schools, like these buildings exist in your community, and is the playground upkept? And those are things that the Board of Education gets to make decisions about. And so I think those are some of the key issues that I would say voters and candidates certainly have built platforms around.
Good survey of issues. I appreciate that. Really quickly, we're almost out of time, but after the election is over, we'll have this mix between appointed and elected on the board. There are some restrictions on who the mayor can appoint, but how do you expect them to get along?
That's a really great question. I would hope that they would, try to work together, but the mayor will still have a majority because he will get to appoint 11 people. Some CTU-backed candidates will likely win, so he may, add to those numbers since the CTU is one of his allies. And so I think it's, again, one of these things where as you look at a governing body, what are the majority votes and what direction will they take policy in?
All right. I just want to mention briefly that Chalkbeat has been working with the Sun-Times, WBEZ, to profile each of these individuals in the top races. Really quickly, where can people go find those profiles?
Check our website, chalkbeat.org/Chicago. You can find all of our voter guide and all of our latest coverage on the school board at that website.
All right, Becky Vivi, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Have a good Sunday.
Thank you. You too.
All right, one more break and we'll be right back.